Still waiting there, he hasn't turned up at all. And he comes out and says, well, why did you take so long? And he said, well, the bus that goes round our house was at the back.
So they just carried on partying. Do you want another drink?
Yes, please.
First, you missed the second, yeah? Well, no, I got it when I pushed my quarter. Yeah, but everyone's been having a few beers by then.
Rob?
You missed it.
What?
Well, don't forget you were going to ask Alan about borrowing the corn drill.
Look, I haven't forgotten, and I'm going to do it, all right? Just give me a break, will you?
What's the matter?
You're the matter. Everything's the matter. Just leave me alone. Who was a drink?
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah, I'll have I'll drink it.
Television and cheese. So where are the drinks then?
Oh, sorry. I was talking to Rob. You made me look like a right old nagging wife in the pub.
Well, you were nagging.
I wasn't. I was just reminding you. You have forgotten to ask him twice already.
Look, it's a favour. I have to ask him when the time is right.
Yes, but we need it now. No wonder the farm's on its last legs with you standing around waiting till the time is right.
Yeah? You're quick to see all the problems, but you're not so good at coming up with any of the answers, are you? I'm the one that has to find a way to keep this bloody place going. I'm the one that has to grovel to the feed merchant, the vet, the bank manager, and just about anybody else that happens to turn up.
No, only because you won't let anyone help you. You and your dad are supposed to be partners. He'd love it if you asked his advice for once.
For Christ's sake! There's no point in getting advice from him. Things have changed. He doesn't know the half of it.
Well, what about me then? We're meant to be a team. But you just cut me off from all the important things. If we're going to have to sell up, I'd like to know before the auctioneer does.
There's no point in sharing things with you because you just get like this. You can't run a farm and be hysterical at the same time.
I'm not hysterical. I'm frightened. I'm frightened about what is going to happen to us, to the farm, and to our future.
I'm not staying around to listen to this rubbish. I've enough trouble in my life without you over-dramatising everything.
The government has
Are
announced...
you all right, sir? I thought I heard shouting.
It's fine, Peter. It's just the television. I'll turn it down.
Oh. All right, I'll go up then. I was having some trouble getting to sleep.
Good night, Peter.
Right, that's 5 reactors I found. Have to isolate them, get them valued, and we'll just have to keep it under review.
I don't believe it. These cattle are costing me more than they're worth, and that's without your bills on top, which I know I still owe you for.
Yes, that reminds me, Rob, I'm sorry to...
No, you're not sorry. You just want your money. I know that. But I'm saddled with a farm that costs more to run than it makes, a wife who's always on at me, and a father who expects me to sort it all out.
I wasn't going to mention the money. Rob, look.
No, you look. Everybody blames me. They expect me to solve it all. And everyone wants money, even you. And I thought you were a mate. Thought you were Dad's mate too.
Hey, that's not fair. I can't subsidise every struggling farmer I come across. I've got a business to run too. You're not the only one with problems, you know.
Don't give me all that, Tim. You're doing all right. Look at you with your flashy cars and your big house. You don't know what it's really like.
Well, if that's how you feel... What's got into Rob? Just had an earful from him. Laid into me for no reason at all.
Just try living with him. Oh, it's getting to us all. Even the kids stay out of his way. He won't discuss anything with his father. And I know that really hurts him. Poor old Peter, he's given his life to this place. And he won't talk to me. And then that makes me mad, and then we end up rowing. It's getting hard, Tim. Really hard. He doesn't seem to realise that it affects us all. Hi.
I swear, the Warren ground gets bigger every time I plough it. It takes forever. I wonder Dad doesn't feel up to it anymore.
I know, I think he felt a bit bad about that. Felt he let you down. Where shall I put these Suckler Cow premium forms? The deadline's coming up, you know, we've got to get them done.
Put them in Dad's study. He's the one that's got to sign it anyway. I can't concentrate on things like that right now. I'm just too tired.
Oh, I'm sorry, Peter. I thought you were still out in the yard. I didn't mean to give you a fright.
No, you're all right, Sarah. I was just on my way out.
Mr. Chilcott! Peter? Are you all right? What's the matter?
My farm's going bust. My son hates me, and I miss my wife so much. That's what's the matter.
That's terrible. Have you talked to anyone about this?
Who's there to talk to? All busy with their own lives. They don't want to hear my worries.
Tell me. I'm not going anywhere.
It's the farm. There's no let-up. One thing after another. Doesn't seem to be any point, any future. We're in serious trouble. Rob and I are still partners, but 2 years ago I decided I had to give him the chance to run the place. It was long overdue, really. Timing couldn't have been worse. crisis after crisis. It's been hard on him. In fact, he'd be better off without me.
So you say you think Rob hates you?
No. He doesn't hate me, but he blames me for where he's ended up. How was I to know how bad farming was going to get?
There is help available, you know, to talk things through. Maybe get some sound financial advice on the farm. And you'd have a much clearer picture.
Yeah. Then I could really start worrying.
Maybe. At least you'd be doing it for the right reasons. Look, why don't you let me take you back to the farm? And then this evening, if you'd like me to, I could give you a call and could get the ball rolling.
No, I'm not sure about talking to other people about my problems.
But it would be completely confidential. Oh, Peter, I'm not very good at this, but I know there are people out there who can help. I just don't like to see you in this state. I don't think Rob's very happy at the moment either. Come on. I'll take that for you.
You don't trust me.
You had me worried for a moment there, I can tell you.
Hi, Tim. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hello, it's Peter Chilcott here from Castle Farm. I've been thinking about what you said.
Hi, Pete. It's Tim. Yeah, you just caught me. How are things?
Oh, hello, Tim. I've been thinking about what you said, and I would like to talk over with someone. Could you perhaps give me that phone number?
Of course, I'd be happy to, if that's what you want. Listen, I'm really delighted you've decided to talk to someone.
I am the director of a charity, the Rural Stress Information Network. We try to link up those people in statutory, voluntary and local and regional organisations to deliver their help and support to the people who need it in rural areas.
I think stress is a factor in many people's lives now, but certainly in the farming community I've seen a significant rise in the amount of stress.
There are many factors causing distress in farming families. Fear of the future, family relationships, illness, financial worries.
One of the characteristics of the current situation is that extremely good farmers, those that are really at the top of the range, financially astute, doing all the right things, they're also suffering because of the general situation. And it's outside of their control. And that sense of helplessness and the inability to control the future is one of the prime causes of stress.
And there's a very strong relationship between ill health and stress and the mental health consequences that come from that.
The other things to look for are, of course, great events in their lives, a bereavement, loss of work, the things that we all face and we all know are distressing to us as well.
Even some sheer act of God, as a sort of a tree falling down and hitting their Land Rover. I mean, it could be anything like that that you could just use as a piece of evidence to put into the jigsaw to be aware that there could be a problem here.
I'd had a vegetable growing unit, or a vegetable growing farm, which I'd worked on my own for nearly 30 years. I thought, well, the way forward for us in the future has got to be dealing with supermarkets. But in actual fact, I feel it was the demise of us as well, because there was a 10% cut the following year in the price of our commodity. So all our cash flow forecasts were out of the window straight off. By the end of 1991, we were forced into a situation with our bank where basically they withdrew funding from us and we were just stuffed into a corner with nowhere to go. We'd gone through all this stage of seeking financial advice from accountants and so on, But in the end, we got the advice that we were insolvent, and I went to an insolvency practitioner, and he took my last £500 that we had in the world to start the insolvency business up. But at that time, my problems then became his.
The signs of distress that we should all be aware of and hopefully notice when they occur are changes in behaviour, inability to relate to other people, irritability with their own family, difficulties in sleeping, loss of appetite.
If you know someone and they're normally the life and soul of the party, then clearly if they're distressed, they tend to become morose and withdrawn. But the opposite can also be true.
So it's a question of picking up what you can, and particularly using the information that you might already know about the person. You might not go out there very often, but even if you've seen them in the last few months or even a year ago, you might have something to compare with.
So if you know somebody well enough and you know they're changing their behaviour, that's when the warning bells should ring.
Rural people are very stoical. They pride in the way they live their life. They have pride in the way they farm their farms. They're not people who are going to come immediately and tell you. You know, you've got to look for the hidden signs.
Farmers are very proud, independent people, and to have a situation like this, for me, it was at a time when there weren't many business failures about in the farming industry. And for a farmer to have to admit failure is a terrible personal feeling. And I was not able to talk to anybody at that time. I think the desperation to keep farming, or keep growing vegetables in my case, is so great that you will do anything to keep in that livelihood. But it's this belief that next year is going to be better. But it sometimes isn't. The hole that you are digging for yourself financially gets bigger and deeper, and you can't climb out of it. I used to be awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, worrying or planning in my mind how we could sort of juggle finances and juggle the work, so that in effect you'd done a day's work with your mind before you'd actually got out of bed at sort of 6 o'clock. And you're absolutely physically drained by lunchtime, and you're going round on automatic pilot. I don't think I got over to my wife as to how worried and stressed out I was. I've always been quite a cheerful natured person, and if we went out together I would be happy and cheerful with all the friends that you would meet, so that they would not realise that we had a great financial problem at home. The irritability came with your wife and your family.
I think the best way to react to someone if they are in distress is to continue to be yourself and not try to be somebody else.
To ask open questions that enable somebody to develop their theme and hopefully lead into the real causes of their distress.
To get alongside them and to show that you're the sort of person that they can trust.
Giving them your full attention, listening, not thinking about the next job you've got to do or the paperwork that you've got to do on the last job.
To be a person of integrity throughout, and hopefully they will trust you and confide in you because of that.
It's only when you do that that somebody is prepared to begin to put into words, perhaps for the first time, perhaps a little incoherently, what some of the problems are, to trust you. Confidentiality is an absolute must. Trust is only built up on the basis of confidence that the person who is receiving the confidence is not going to divulge that information to any third party. The don'ts include giving advice, oh, you must do this or that, telling them about your experience or the experience of somebody you know.
You're not being judgmental, you're not offering more help than they're prepared to take.
And acting as though you could solve the problems for them. Because the vital thing to remember is that you can only support somebody to identify their own problems and then find the path forwards into the future.
Seek help and advice before you take any drastic steps, or even before you give up.
It is perfectly acceptable to touch on the topic of suicide. It's perfectly possible to ask someone whether they've considered those feelings. Now, of course, you have to be careful how you do it. You don't suddenly step in both feet. But if the discussion is going that way, it's okay to ask the question, and that doesn't put the thought in somebody's mind, incidentally. I mean, it's one of the myths.
I thought about it, but to me, my life is so valuable to me and my family that I couldn't go through with it.
This belief that if you talk about suicide, it encourages people. It doesn't. Sometimes it's a great relief for a patient when you mention suicide and you mention, is there a danger that they've thought about harming themselves? You're not encouraging them to do so.
Offering support to somebody in distress can be very demanding. It's very important that we all recognise our own needs when we get involved with somebody and attempting to give them the help that they need.
Carrying someone else's load, as it were, takes a toll on you. So you really need to find someone that you're comfortable with and who you also know to be discreet.
Make time and devote the energy to telling somebody else about it in confidence and anonymously. You don't have to go into details, but that is not a step that anyone must be tempted to omit for their own good.
More serious situations, you can always use the Samaritans. You can phone them and say this is what's happening in the situation and use them as a sounding board.
Well, they always say that a trouble shared is a trouble halved, don't they? Well, in my case, I was assisted by the Royal Agricultural Benevolent Institution. We've now got the Rural Stress. There are the Samaritans. But most of all, you've got your neighbour. Please talk to a neighbour or your vicar or anybody that you can seek and give confidential help with.
There are many organisations. There are local organisations. There are national organisations. I mean, there are organisations like the RSIN, and that's very important. And that's made a huge impact. Actually brought people together on a national and a local basis.
If people believe they are in trouble, both financially and spiritually, should we say, that they have got to go out and seek help. They must do.
I think the first contact point also depends on who the distressed person is. If it may be that one farmer doesn't actually like talking about emotional things, can see it in being related to a physical element. Perhaps the GP is the most important. It may be that they can see it from a financial point of view. So it may be that somebody with some financial help can help from one of the farming unions or whatever. It doesn't matter who the first person of contact is, as long as that contact is made.
In exceptional circumstances, the idea of a third-party call, as it's called in the jargon, might come into place. If you feel, for example, that someone is about to take their own life, it's possible for you to phone the Samaritans and ask them to contact the person.
At a time of great stress, I would emphasise that people need someone to talk to. People in my village, who I've been friendly with all my life, could not pick up the phone to come and see us or ring up and have a chat. They could not come and see us. They couldn't handle talking to somebody who had lost everything because they didn't know what to say.
I think often when you live in a rural community, we're much more fortunate in the sense that our patients are our friends. We see them in the surgery, the pub, the church, whatever. It is easy to pick up those telltale signs. And failure is not just a professional failure. It's having to live with it every day in your practice.
I think there's one thing that will defeat all of us if we let it, and that is that we're frightened. Either, if we're the person who needs help, we're frightened of being thought ridiculous if we ask for help. If we're the person able to offer help, we're frightened of letting ourselves into something that we can't control and of being out of our depth. But for those who do ask, you actually find there are an amazing number of people who are able and willing to offer their help and support. And all I can say is that asking actually does bring dividends.
So that I would stress in this film we're doing today that you must not walk away, you must go in there, and if I may do this, I would say extend the hand of friendship and of human kindness, because that to them could be a lifeline for them to take hold on to.